Again, countering the combinations.
There's a right hand to the body, digging away was Broner.
Oh, he's hurt. Hook got him.
Showtime! Saturday, January 19th, Manny Pacquiao versus Adrien "The Problem" Broner.
You know, obviously their personalities are very different, but they've become two of the most polarizing figures in boxing for very different reasons. You know, Pacquiao dominated boxing along with Floyd Mayweather for many years. Adrien Broner has been one of the top fighters in the world as well, but what he was able to do was put himself into a certain marketplace where his personality was going to thrive and his personality was going to make him a major selling point. And of course, you can only do that if you're good enough to be able to have some success, and obviously winning multiple world titles has done that for Adrien as well.
We turn to you, Adrien. Congratulations on your 4th title.
I'm motherfucking tired.
Adrien Broner at this point is just at 29 years old, but you know, he's taken some losses at the high elite level and is kind of in dire need of a big time win to kind of repropel him back into the mix. Sometimes there's distractions, and that's kind of been the enigma of Adrien Broner, is all the distractions. You know, Broner, I think, will always be a star and a curiosity for a lot of people. He's also an enigma and his own worst enemy in many times.
What do you think you guys would be doing if you weren't here in the gym boxing?
A lot of bad things.
Like what?
Trying to rob people, trying to break the cars.
Oh, come on. You're joking with me. You would not be doing that.
Probably.
So I think Adrien Broner, despite the fact that he's accomplished so much, at this point in his career, being 29 and having a lot in front of him, he has the potential to really have a second half of his career that can be phenomenal. About billions, AB, is this persona bigger than his boxing? Or is he gonna make his boxing come first and make sure he gets the most out of it in the second half of his career? I think the fight with me and Adrien Broner was kind of an example of why Broner and Pacquiao will be so exciting. I think both Broner and Pacquiao are really never in a bad fight, you know, and I think that's my biggest memory of the Broner fight with myself, was that it was a great fight. Broner fights in spots, and I feel like myself and Ponce de Leon were the first ones to kind of expose that. I don't think everybody was really catching on to that, you know, and I caught on to that when I watched his fight with Ponce de Leon, and I kept it in mind after that, especially once I got the fight. I said, okay, I know exactly how to fight this guy. But he's not stupid. He fights in spots, but he stays very defensively tight in the much larger spots that he's not fighting. So he'll kind of give the rounds away, not working enough many times. But in the small spots that he does work, a lot of times he's very explosive, and he's very sharp, and he lands good eye-catching shots. So it leaves you kind of yearning for him and saying, why doesn't he do this more often? Why doesn't he do this more often? And when I was fighting him, I remember, especially the early part of the fight, I'm like, this guy's just not fighting, you know? Like, I'm sweeping these rounds, you know? And then he starts getting off shots, and you start to understand what he's doing. He's mentally pressuring you. He cuts off the ring very well. For a guy who doesn't throw punches, he actually makes you feel more heat than he's actually bringing. It's almost like an illusion. He'll cut off the ring and bring the fight to you, but he's not actually fighting. A lot of times he's just cutting off the ring, making you go into a panic mode, and sometimes he makes these guys panic and make a mistake, and then he makes them pay for that mistake with a lightning combination of his own once they've made that mistake and opened themselves up. But if you stay calm enough to realize that the pressure is an illusion, he's cutting you off, but he's not getting off enough shots to really make you feel that heat, you start to get off more shots yourself. And then the fight evolves in a different way, you know, and sometimes it's good for him, sometimes it's bad for him. We noticed even recently, the Jesse Vargas fight. Vargas is doing well, but then Broner's doing very well as well, you know, and it was a very fun, entertaining fight. But again, you see what Broner's doing. I thought Mikey Garcia was the playbook and taking away the play from Adrien Broner. Mikey Garcia is a special fighter in that one of the main things he knows how to do is take away the play from you consistently. And he knows how to dominate from every second of every round. Changing angles, he was getting off punches and combinations. He was staying balanced enough to follow up the combinations with more combinations so that Adrien couldn't reset himself to give punches back. Yeah, Adrien showed a great chin. Adrien shows some good resistance. One thing about Adrien that people tend to overlook because it tends to annoy them so much, so they overlook it. Adrien's got a great chin, but he's also got a lot of heart. You know, and it kind of gets lost in the translation with all the talking that he does and all the trash talking that he does, because he's getting on people's nerves so much that they kind of don't see that there's many layers to this guy as a fighter. You know, they see the flash and dash, but below that layer of flash and dash, there's a lot of toughness there. Adrien Broner's never been stopped. Adrien Broner's only been down against Marcos Maidana. And Adrien Broner is a guy who, will stay in there if it gets hot. If it gets hot and if it's not comfortable for him, and maybe he won't win, but he's not going to just go away either. But I think when you don't meet people's expectations, they're harder on you, And I think some of the expectations were unfair for Adrien Broner. He was on the pound-for-pound list in all the major boxing publications before he really had a major win. Prior to fighting me, he was already on the pound-for-pound list, So, I think the expectations were thrust upon Adrien Broner, and they were sort of unfair. And so then the criticism came to Broner, and I think that was sort of unfair too, because I always felt this guy was a good fighter, very, very good fighter. And I always felt this guy was, as he got through into the tough fights, like the Maidana fight, like the Mikey Garcia fight, you also see this guy has a lot of character inside the ring. He's not just a guy who's going to hand it to you. He's going to make you work. Even if you're going to beat him up, you're going to be in there, and you're going to have to work for it. Because he's going to remain dangerous and relevant, and he's going to have his own spots where he's going to keep you honest in some ways.
When I win this fight, I just want to hear what they're going to say then.
I think they're underestimating you. Do you think they're...
I'ma just listen. I'm winning this fight.
I'm 40 years old. This is my first fight for being 40 years old. Manny Pacquiao is still there, still alive in sport of boxing, still there, giving inspiration to the Filipino people, giving happiness, enjoyment for a moment.
Yes, he may not have the same legs, and he may not have the same explosiveness, but if the Lucas Matisse fight showed us anything, he still has that all power. That power. He still has that power that is more than respectable. It will end the fight, And I think. When a guy has that kind of power, I think he always remains relevant and dangerous to a certain degree. Yes, Matisse can be beaten, and he has been beaten. And I think his power has made people consider him to be more elite than he actually ever was. But in order to take that away from him, in order to make him not look elite, you have to be good enough. You have to be good enough to take away the control of the fight from Matisse, and only the good fighters have done that. Those fighters who lack some qualities have not been able to do that to Lucas Matisse. He's eventually able to find them and eliminate them. So the fact that Pacquiao was able to take away the confidence of Matisse, show Matisse that he is the boss in the fight, and then slowly but surely take him apart and take away the self-belief and then finally end the fight, I think goes to show you that Pacquiao had the hunger, determination, obviously, and also still the skill set was there to confuse and befuddle Matisse, and a sharp left uppercut. The sharp left uppercut that really people didn't see coming. I think the thing is this, though. Pacquiao is never going to be a natural welter or super welterweight or whatnot, So I think you cap him off at about lightweight, super lightweight, as far as being physically able to deal with these guys. Speed-wise and maneuver-wise, he has been able to deal with bigger guys in the past. But I think Jeff Horn fought a Pacquiao who had his legs diminished. So now he's not able to maneuver as well as he wants to. If you look at the Margarito fight and the Cotto fight of not allowing these physically bigger fighters to make the fight into a physical fight. He kept the fight a tactical one and was able to establish dominance that way, through his movement and his boxing ability. But I think the positive thing for Pacquiao in the Broner fight is Broner has that same situation going on as Pacquiao in that his skills are more magnified when he doesn't have to deal with a physically bigger guy who is going to eliminate them just by being physically bigger. So I think it's another reason why this fight becomes very intriguing. I think what went wrong for Pacquiao in the Mayweather fight is pretty much something similar to what goes wrong for Adrien Broner, in that if he can't find his range, he's not going to be able to get off the punches he wants to and the punches that make him look good. I think Pacquiao has similar deficiencies to Broner in some of that, but Pacquiao is able to throw longer punches. So he's able to still find a longer trajectory than Broner. Broner likes to throw all those short punches, and I think finding the distance for him, he needs to be a little bit closer. Pacquiao can be a little bit further and get off those punches and be in and out, but he still has to be a little bit more creative. That's kind of his only way he enters the danger zone. He enters your danger zone by kind of using these long shots, maybe feinting his way and using these long shots. There isn't a lot of change of speed. There isn't a lot of creativity behind that. It may work against Adrien Broner because Adrien Broner is still a guy who wants to be who wants to get close, and he's not going to be very creative himself getting in. So it's kind of a deficiency they both have. Broner has it worse because Pacquiao will use his legs a bit and try to jump his way into with these combinations. The thing is, against a guy like Floyd Mayweather, you need to be a bit more creative with finding that distance. You're just using these feints and jumping in, the same feint and then jumping in with these shots. And not changing speed and not changing looks is going to give you a problem. I think Floyd always knew that Pacquiao's combination punching is dangerous. He's throwing these incredibly speedy combinations, incredibly nice combinations, but they are combinations that are already finding themselves at the proper distance. The bag doesn't change range on you. The bag doesn't change the look on you. When you don't do them on the bag, when you find yourself with a human being in front of you, there's going to be a puzzle like Floyd Mayweather, for example, who's the biggest puzzle of them all, who is going to force you to have to figure out the best way to find the range you need to be at in order to be dangerous with these combinations. I think that's what went wrong in the Floyd fight. He wasn't able to find his range correctly. And the times he found his range, he was so excited, he was in a rush, he kind of rushed his punches. And they wound up on Floyd's gloves, or Floyd just clinched them, and then they wound up back on the distance where he had to re-earn his distance all over again. You know, and that would take a long time again. I don't know that this deficiency is going to come into play against Broner, because Broner also has the same issues with distance, you know? And so if he's able to trap Broner trying to come in from the outside, and Broner's not using his punches to cut that distance, then he's going to kind of fall into what Pacquiao wants to do anyway. If Pacquiao has those legs, because at 40 years old and 70 or 80 fights into your pro career, you have to always ask that question. Pacquiao is 40, but of course, if he's not looking to go anywhere and he's looking for another major fight, I mean, the boogeyman in the room, the elephant in the room is Floyd Mayweather, you know. And when you have a name, the name recognition both of these fighters have, you always are in the conversation for a Mayweather fight, who himself there's always the question of how retired really is he? There's always something out there that's luring Floyd back in. There's always something out here that may make him think, you know what, I can come back for this. And so the marquee recognition factor, the marquee name recognition of the winner of Pacquiao and Broner, being that they already have big names, I think is enough to lure Mayweather back in. And I think that's what's on the line for these guys, is the potential for a Mayweather fight. We're still talking about that in 2019. But Mayweather loves to tease us, and Mayweather has shown that he will come back if the moment suits him. I think the key to victory for Manny Pacquiao is to get off shots at a range where Broner is not comfortable throwing his own shots. You know, and that's kind of been the enigma of Broner all the time. If Broner's not on a range where he's comfortable throwing his own shots, Broner has shown us that he won't throw them. He just won't throw them. You know, hopefully he's learning to punch his way into distance instead of just trying to find his way into distance and then punching once he's there. So I think the key to beating Broner for Pacquiao, especially with the speed Pacquiao has, is keep Broner at that distance where he's not going to throw a lot of shots. And Pacquiao can do that, because Pacquiao naturally does that, and where he's throwing these long shots and in combination. And if he's able to do that against Broner, Broner will stay defensive. I don't think he'll get Broner out of there. But I think it'll keep Broner defensively in a shell. And if you keep Broner defensively in a shell, he can't get off enough to win rounds. I think Broner has to get in range to win this fight, but I think Broner has to figure out ways to do that. I think Pacquiao's too good to just let you walk in the front door. And so Broner has trouble when you don't let him just walk in the front door. I would hope Broner at this point in his career understands this. Whoever's training him understands this, that Broner needs to punch his way into range. He can't just expect himself to walk into range against guys of this level. It may work against lesser level guys, but against guys of a higher level, he finds himself in trouble once he can't walk into range the way he has against other opponents. I don't think Pacquiao will let him walk into range. Unless Pacquiao's legs are totally gone, I believe Adrien Broner has to figure out creative ways of getting in range, and that's what he needs to work on. That's always been his kryptonite and his Achilles heel in his boxing career. Aside from fighting guys bigger, when he's had trouble against the smaller guys, it's been because he doesn't have a creative way of finding and punching his way into range. He needs to be able to punch his way into range. But if Pacquiao's legs aren't what they were or aren't anything close to it, Broner will push forward, and Broner will cut off the ring. And then there'll be moments where Broner gets inside, and that's where he can get very dangerous.
We have two of the most talented, recognizable, and accomplished boxers in the world today.
This is my first fight being 40 years old. My focus is still there. Speed, footwork. You can see the fire in my eyes.
Everybody got to spend money to hit the lottery. All I got to do is win a fight. This shit for the woo.
Saturday, January 19th, Manny Pacquiao versus Adrien Broner.